What if the most dangerous place you will ever visit in your entire life is not a battlefield, not a dark alley, not a place of physical danger, but a quiet room where you are completely alone with nothing but yourself? What if the moment your phone is switched off, the moment the music stops, the moment the world goes silent around you, something inside you starts screaming? And what if that screaming is not madness, but the most honest conversation your mind has ever tried to have with you? Most people run from that silence. They fill every second with noise, with movement, with distraction, because they are terrified of what they will hear when everything finally goes quiet. But here is what very few people ever discover. That noise inside your head, when your body stays still, is not your enemy. It is your map. It is showing you exactly where you are lost, exactly where you are broken, and exactly where your greatest transformation is waiting. The question is not whether you can silence your mind. The question is, do you have the courage to actually listen to it? Stay with me, because what comes next will change how you understand yourself forever. What if the greatest battle of your life has never been fought outside of you, but has always been raging silently within you, waiting for the one moment when you finally become still enough to hear it? Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You sit down, you stop moving, the world around you becomes quiet. And then, suddenly your mind does the exact opposite of what you expected. Instead of becoming peaceful, instead of becoming calm, it becomes louder. Thoughts rush in like a river breaking through a dam. Memories surface that you buried months ago. Fears you forgot you carried begin knocking on the doors of your awareness. Emotions you convinced yourself were gone return with full force. And in that moment, most people make the same mistake. They stand up, they reach for their phone, they turn on the television, they find something, anything, to fill that silence back up again. But ask yourself honestly, why? Why does the human mind become louder the moment the human body becomes still? And more importantly, what is that loudness actually trying to tell you? Understand this deeply. Your body and your mind are not separate systems operating independently of each other. They are intimately, inseparably connected. Every thought you avoid creates tension somewhere in your body. Every emotion you suppress finds a hiding place in your muscles, in your breath, in your posture. And as long as your body is moving, as long as you are walking, working, scrolling, talking, running, those stored thoughts and emotions have nowhere to go. They stay hidden. They stay suppressed. They stay quiet because the noise of your movement drowns them out completely. But the moment you sit still, truly still, the noise of movement disappears. And everything that was hiding beneath that noise begins to rise to the surface. The mind does not suddenly become louder in stillness. The mind was always this loud. You just finally stopped running fast enough to hear it. This is one of the most profound and unsettling discoveries a human being can make about themselves. We live in a world designed to keep us moving, designed to keep us distracted, designed to ensure we never sit long enough in genuine silence to confront what is actually living inside us. And this is not by accident, this is by design, both by the world around us and by our own unconscious fear of self-confrontation. Think about the last time you were truly, genuinely alone, with no stimulation, no music, no conversation, no screen, no movement, just you and silence. For most people, that experience lasted approximately 30 seconds before they reached for something to break it. Not because they were busy, not because they had somewhere to be, but because something inside them became deeply, instinctively uncomfortable. That discomfort has a name. It is called self-confrontation, and it is the one experience that separates those who grow from those who remain exactly where they are for their entire lives. Here is what you must understand about the nature of the mind. The mind does not create thoughts from nothing. Every thought that rises during stillness existed inside you long before you sat down. The anger that surfaces, you carried it before you closed your eyes. The sadness that appears, It was already living in you before the room went quiet. The fear that whispers, it has been whispering your entire life. Stillness did not create these things. Stillness simply removed the curtain that was hiding them from your own view. And this is where the real question begins. When these thoughts arrive, when the mind becomes loud, what do you do with them? Because the answer to that question determines everything about the quality of your inner life. Most human beings respond to loud thoughts the same way they respond to loud people. They either argue with them or they run from them. They either fight the thought, trying to push it away through force of will, or they escape the thought by destroying the stillness that allowed it to surface. Both responses lead to the same result. The thought returns, the emotion strengthens, the pattern deepens. Because you cannot resolve something by refusing to look at it directly. The path of genuine inner development requires something far more difficult than fighting or fleeing. It requires sitting with the loudness without reacting to it. It requires observing the storm of thought without becoming the storm. This is not passive weakness. This is perhaps the most demanding discipline a human being can ever practice. And because the mind will test you, the mind will send thought after thought, wave after wave, each one more compelling, more urgent, more emotionally charged than the last. And every single wave will invite you to react, to follow the thought into its story, to be swept away into the narrative of worry or regret or resentment. But the practitioner, the one who has committed to genuine self-knowledge, learns to do something remarkable. They learn to watch, just watch, without judgment, without engagement, without the need to fix or change or understand in the immediate moment. They sit as the observer of their own mind's activity, and in that observation, something extraordinary begins to happen. The thoughts slow down. Not because they were forced to slow, not because the mind was commanded to be quiet, but because the mind, when it realizes it will not be reacted to, gradually loses the energy that was feeding it. A thought has power only when it is given your full emotional investment. Remove the investment, maintain the observation, and the thought reveals itself for what it truly is. A movement of energy passing through awareness, no more permanent, no more defining than a cloud passing through an open sky. This understanding changes everything about how you experience silence. Silence is no longer something to endure. It becomes something to enter with genuine curiosity, because every loud thought that arrives in your stillness is carrying information. It is telling you something about where you are attached, where you are afraid, where you are carrying wounds that have not yet been acknowledged or healed. And the only way to receive that information, the only way to understand what your own mind is trying to show you, is to remain still long enough to actually hear it fully. There is a profound difference between a mind that is quiet because it has been distracted into silence, and a mind that is quiet because it has been truly understood. The first kind of quiet lasts only as long as the distraction does. The moment the phone goes down, the moment the music stops, the noise returns, often louder than before, because it has been building pressure during the time it was suppressed. But the second kind of quiet, the quiet that comes from genuine self-observation, from sitting with the noise until it reveals its source, that quiet has depth, that quiet has roots, that quiet remains with you not only in the meditation cushion, but in the middle of chaos, in the middle of difficulty, in the middle of the storms that life will inevitably bring. This is the transformation that stillness makes possible, not the elimination of thought. That is neither the goal nor the possibility, but the development of a relationship with your own mind in which you are no longer ruled by every thought that arises, in which you can observe anger without becoming anger, in which you can feel fear without being paralyzed by fear, in which you can hear the loudness of your mind without being overwhelmed by it. And here is what nobody warns you about. This process is not comfortable. When you first begin to practice genuine stillness, the mind will become louder before it becomes quieter. This is not failure. This is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. This is precisely what is supposed to happen. The suppressed thoughts and emotions that have been waiting beneath the surface of your awareness for months, for years, perhaps for decades, they now have the space to move. They rise. They demand attention. They present themselves with great emotional force. Your only job in those moments is to stay, to not run, to not react, to simply remain in the stillness, watching the storm, knowing with absolute certainty that every storm, no matter how powerful, no matter how terrifying, eventually passes. And after it passes, you will find something waiting on the other side that most people never discover. Clarity, real clarity, the kind that comes not from thinking harder, not from planning more carefully, but from having sat in honest confrontation with your own inner landscape until the noise resolved itself into understanding. The body's stillness is not weakness. It is the most courageous act available to a human being in a world that teaches everyone to keep moving, to keep producing, to keep performing. Because in stillness, all performance falls away. In stillness, you cannot pretend to be someone you are not. In stillness, the gap between who you tell the world you are and who you actually are becomes impossible to ignore. And it is precisely in that gap, in that honest, uncomfortable, illuminating space between your presented self and your true self, where all genuine growth begins. So the next time your mind becomes loud, when your body goes still, do not reach for your phone. Do not fill the silence. Do not run from what is rising. Instead, breathe, observe, remain, and understand that your mind is not punishing you with that noise. It is trusting you enough to finally show you what it has been carrying all along. The loudness is not the problem. The loudness is the beginning of the solution. Everything we have explored today comes down to one fundamental truth. Stillness is not the absence of noise. Stillness is the courage to remain present while the noise does what it must do. Your mind gets louder when your body stays still, not because something is wrong with you, but because something deeply right is finally being given the space it needs to emerge. Every thought that rises in your silence is an opportunity to know yourself more honestly, to heal more completely, and to build the kind of inner strength that no external circumstance can take from you. The practice of stillness is the practice of becoming more aware, more honest, more free, and that becoming does not happen in the noise of constant movement. It happens in the quiet, demanding, transformative space of genuine stillness. This is not a one-time discovery. This is a daily commitment. Return to stillness. Return to observation. Return to yourself again and again and again, until the loudness becomes your teacher and the silence becomes your home.